In modern communication, there's a very common and sometimes confusing behavior. People who never answer phone calls but reply almost instantly in messages. You call them no answer. But a few seconds later, you get a text, "What happened?" Or, "Can you write?" At first, this might seem rude or even suspicious. Some people take it personally, thinking they are being ignored. But in reality, this behavior often has deeper psychological reasons. It's not always about disrespect. In many cases, it's about comfort, control, and how the brain processes communication. So what is the psychology of people who avoid calls but prefer messaging? The first reason is control over the conversation. Phone calls are unpredictable. When you answer a call, you don't know exactly what the other person will say, how long the conversation will last, or what will be expected from you. Messages, on the other hand, give you control. You can read, think, and respond when you're ready. This creates a sense of safety and reduces pressure. For people who value control, texting feels much more comfortable than speaking in real time. The second reason is time to think. In a phone call, you are expected to respond immediately. There is no pause, no time to carefully choose your words. For some people, especially those who tend to overthink, this can be stressful. They don't want to say the wrong thing or sound unprepared. Messaging allows them to slow down. They can think about their response, edit it, and present themselves more carefully. This reduces anxiety and helps them feel more confident in communication. The third reason is social anxiety. For some people, phone calls create a strong sense of pressure. Speaking directly, hearing someone's voice, and responding in real time can feel overwhelming. Even a simple call can trigger stress. Messaging feels less intense. It removes the immediate social pressure and allows communication to happen at a more comfortable pace. This is why people with social anxiety often prefer texting over calling. The fourth reason is emotional distance. Voice communication is more personal. You can hear tone, emotion, and subtle reactions. This makes conversations feel more real and sometimes more intense. Messaging creates distance. Without tone of voice, communication feels less emotional. Some people prefer this distance because it protects them from uncomfortable emotions. It's easier to stay neutral in text than in a voice conversation. The fifth reason is multitasking. In modern life, people are often busy and distracted. Phone calls require full attention. You usually have to stop what you're doing to talk. Messages, however, can be answered while doing something else. People who are constantly multitasking may avoid calls simply because texting fits better into their routine. It allows them to stay productive while still communicating. The sixth reason is habit and digital culture. Younger generations, in particular, have grown up with messaging as the main form of communication. For them, texting is normal, while phone calls may feel unnecessary or even uncomfortable. Over time, this becomes a habit. The brain adapts to the easiest and most familiar form of communication, and messaging becomes the default choice. The seventh reason is avoiding unwanted conversations. Sometimes, people don't answer calls because they are not ready for a certain conversation. A phone call can lead to topics they want to avoid, questions they don't want to answer, or situations they are not prepared for. By responding with a message, they can control the direction of the conversation or keep it short. This is not always intentional avoidance, but it is a way to manage discomfort. The eighth reason is energy management. Talking on the phone requires more mental and emotional energy than texting. You need to stay engaged, react in real time, and maintain the conversation. For people who feel mentally tired or emotionally drained, this can be exhausting. Messaging requires less energy. It allows short, controlled interactions instead of continuous engagement. The ninth reason is fear of awkwardness. Some people feel uncomfortable with silence, interruptions, or not knowing when to speak during a call. They may worry about talking over someone or not responding correctly. Messaging removes this problem. There is no pressure to react instantly, and pauses are completely normal. The 10th reason is preference for clarity. Messages create a written record. You can reread information, check details, and avoid misunderstandings. In a call, information can be forgotten or misunderstood. People who prefer clarity and structure often choose messaging because it feels more organized and reliable. Now, it's important to understand something clearly. This behavior does not always mean the person doesn't care. In many cases, it actually means the opposite. They respond quickly in messages because they do want to communicate just in a way that feels comfortable for them. However, this habit can sometimes create misunderstandings. For people who prefer calls, it may feel like avoidance or lack of respect. This difference in communication style can lead to frustration on both sides. The key idea here is that people have different psychological comfort zones when it comes to communication. Some feel more connected through voice, while others feel more comfortable through text. Understanding this difference can improve communication. Instead of assuming negative intentions, it helps to recognize that people are simply choosing the method that feels safest and easiest for them. At the same time, balance is important. While messaging is convenient, avoiding calls completely can limit deeper communication. Some conversations are more effective and meaningful when spoken. In the end, the psychology of people who don't answer calls but reply in messages is not about ignoring others. It's about control, comfort, energy, and habits shaped by modern technology. And once you understand that, this behavior becomes much easier to interpret, not as rejection, but as a different way of communicating.